in this lesson, we'll spend some time adding a little bit more detail to the head. So this is where we left off. You can start with this project file. This is 11 begin, or you can just start where you left off on yours. Right now we are at 5 levels. I'm going to go ahead and add maybe one more level. And we're up to 1 million polygons, I think, right now. So we'll go ahead and start from there. And if we need to later on, we can go ahead and subdivide. You can see here that'll give you the face count. So going up from 1140 up here to 1,167,000. All right, so at this point, I might want to start to block in some creases to define the different areas of the face. And one nice way to do that is to use Sculpt, and we can use a special stamp called a vector displacement stamp. That's going to be these 5 all the way at the end. And these have a lot more information than a regular stamp will have in it. And you can really just see the effect if we select one, make sure that randomize is off, and then I can come in here and I want to make sure that my strength is set all the way up. And these will actually give you a nice crease depending on the map that you actually use. Also, it'll depend on the direction. So I could come in here to define these brows a little bit better. But if I go the other way, that crease is going to happen the other way. And so I can come in here and start to define areas that way. Coming in here and maybe coming right along here. Kind of create the ridge for the mouth there. You can also grab this last one and it will just do kind of a crease. And so we can really get a nice wrinkle in there and start to define the different areas of our face. So let's say that we want to have this sort of kind of a maybe a little pig nose coming in. We can come in here and just start to define this a little bit better. And just kind of blocking this in, sometimes it's easier to do it this way and then go back in and add your mass on top of it. So I can come in here and kind of define this a little bit more. We can grab, use our grab brush and kind of move things. I don't have the eyelids or anything in there yet, but that's okay. Come in here and start to kind of define the area up here. Now coming in to the mouth, I really want to have this geometry undercut here. And so I'm going to come in and just start to create our little nose area here using wax. I can smooth that back out. But I just want to start to add that volume in there, and just using those wrinkles as a guide. We can always go back over those later. All right, when I get the grab brush, I'm going to move this geometry up a little bit. Okay, really get that sort of look. Now you can see as I grab this, it's moving the geometry, anything within this brush, and we don't necessarily want that. Maybe we want to create a little bit more of an overlap. So what we can do is use freeze, and let's freeze everything above that wrinkle that we created here. Okay, so now when we go get grab, now it's not going to affect anything in the blue. And so I can bring this out a little bit, pull it up if I want to do that, and create kind of an overlap there. Let's pull it out and give it a little bit more thickness. We can use wax to do this as well. Kind of continue to add a little bit of that detail in there. Just pulling this out a bit. You don't have to be perfect, but kind of add into that chin a little bit more. Kind of coming in from under the chin, add a little bit of that detail. All right, and then if you wanted to invert that, you could go and invert the freeze. Shift-I is a hotkey for that, and then you could come in and continue adding your detail, and it's not going to affect the blue parts. So I could come in here and continue to refine the nose, go back to sculpt, and start to add in some of those wrinkles to help define those areas. Coming down in here, let's go ahead and unfreeze all. Okay, and then we can start to kind of continue to add detail here. under the eyes, coming in from around the here. Let's go ahead and add a little bit of detail to the ears. So I can come in here and start to add detail that way. Use wax, and I could sort of create these little structures in here really quickly. Take our brush size down a little bit. Really define that a little bit more, and use grab to pull it out from the body a bit more. So something more like that. And then we'll use wax to kind of dial it back in. So it's all just kind of a back and forth with these tools. You're adding a little bit of detail, you're smoothing it back into the surface, you're subtracting a little bit of detail out. You're going back and defining different areas. So we can sort of use this to define the base of the ear where it kind of attaches to the head here. Add a little bit of detail in there. Okay, under the jaw, same thing. Probably have this coming in over here. Now we want to have a little bit of detail coming in around where the mouth meets. So a little bit of flesh coming around here. So I'll just go ahead and add that in. We want it to kind of work back up into the head and body. And then, we could come in here and start to add raised detail coming in on the mouth. Not really teeth, but we'll add teeth later, but this is more like just an edge to that. You could also come in with pinch and kind of pinch the edges of that to make it look a little bit harder. Go back in with sculpt and start to add in maybe a few little wrinkles coming in here, maybe going up and around, continuing on with those wrinkles that we created. All right, so just starting to add a little bit of detail that way. You can come in here and kind of sharpen things up a little. Again, just going back and forth with that. Add a little bit of mass in there. We've got this flesh bunched up. All right, so just have a little fun with that, putting in some facial details, and remember, if you need to kind of overlap something, you can use freeze to do that. So once we've got a little bit more detail filled in on the head, the next thing we'll do is go ahead and let's add some detail to the hands and feet. And then we'll eventually get into adding the eyes, sculpting around those, and so forth. So next, in the next lesson, let's add a little bit of detail to the hands and the feet of our character.